The wait is over. The 2026 MSHSL State Boys Hockey Tournament has arrived. We'll bring you every heart-pounding moment. Coverage starts this Thursday on KFAN and KFAN Plus. Presented by James Hardy, the #1 brand of siding in North America.
Nordo in for PA. It's vocal maintenance season. The host returns tomorrow. And in studio with me now is Pete Najarian, at Pete Najarian via X. Follow him as I do. Outstanding Gophers linebacker in the 80s. Spent time in the NFL with both our beloved Purple, the Vikings, as well as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But this all came together, by the way, with the most exclusive lunch invitation in the greater Twin Cities area.
That's true.
Cheers to Howard Bornstein, who is most certainly listening. He'll call the 800-320-5326 on end for all 3 hours. He'll send me 30 text messages.
You too, huh?
Yes, he will. Opinions both solicited and unsolicited.
Yes.
And that's why he's one of the best. But Pete, I must admit, you know, by name equity, I'm aware of your background and what you've given to sports here locally and beyond. But I kind of know you more at my age, at 40, as the options guru. It's Market Rebellion. It's you and your brother John. It's the hair. It's the bits. It's TV.
What little hair we both have, by the way.
But
we got some on the back, I guess.
The best we can, absolutely. But thank you for hanging out. This is absolutely awesome, man.
It's my pleasure, man. It's great to be with you. I listen to you guys all the time, as you know. I mean, we go back and forth once in a while, but you know, I know a lot of the different hosts here, and they're great. And Justin Gard, of course, being with the Gophers all these years, and he and I have developed a great friendship. And at the Cal Minnesota game this past year, at halftime, he had me out on the field with him talking about what was going on and all that stuff. So really a lot of fun. I have a lot of ties to KFAN.
No, that's it, absolutely you do. And you know, before we get, because the pathway forward, as we've kind of framed it up 9 to noon, with the Vikings is, I mean, this is the time slot that is typically uber positive.
Right. I
don't look for reasons my team's going to lose. I look for reasons on why my team may win. Mm-hmm. The pathway forward is dire. Mm-hmm. But I do want to start on the college side. You mentioned it, your connection to the Gophers, of course, and your work with JG and all of that. That's tremendous. But just kind of at the outset, a guy that played at a high level. We were joking about the combine during the break. The evolution of the players themselves is one thing. The evolution of the business of college football is a whole different beast in trying to navigate. And I'm just curious, as you've been close to this program for so long and just watching it move forward the way it has and how PJ's operating things now, like where's your head at when you think about college football and it's a younger Pete Najarian making plays on Saturdays in maroon and gold to now watching it on the sideline? What hits you when you think about just how much things have changed?
It's professional football.
It really
it's an easy answer.
Yeah.
When you think about the portal, that's your free agency. You look at NIL money, and obviously that's your salary. But that's what it's really become. And one of the things that bothered me early on, and I was very vocal about this, was, hey, look, I don't mind at all. I think players should get some sort of money, maybe some sort of cut, so to speak. But I think that they've gone way too far. And I also think that early on I would have said, you know what? Why is the NFL so much bigger than the NBA, the NHL, and everybody else? They have these salary caps. And I know we're going to talk about that with the Vikings because they've got some issues with the salary cap. But I think that that would be something that would at least be helpful. I think they also should have figured out, hey, look, we don't want these guys to transfer every single year to another university, which we're seeing more and more of that all the time. And the problem with that is, at the very end, let's say you made some money along the way. You probably, unfortunately, got rid of a lot of that money on various things, cars and whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But the reality is you don't have a degree either. Because how on earth how do they even stay in a position academically to be eligible to play? Right. I don't know how they do it. I was a pre-med guy. And I'd studied day and night when I wasn't on the football field. And I was always wanting to go in my dad's footsteps and become a surgeon and all the rest of that. But I was fortunate enough to get in and play football long enough that I thought, you know what? At 30 years old, I don't want to start medical school. I think I'm going to go a different route. So I went the financial route. But you know, when I look at these guys, I just feel bad because where is their path? You know, you were mentioning path. Where's their path? They get out of college. They don't make it in the NFL because very few do. And then what do? You don't have a degree. Now you've got to figure out what do you do the rest of your life. And you probably did spend a good chunk of whatever that money is. And I really wish that the schools could do a much better job with letting them not only academically do better, but I think specifically, what do they do with that money? Do they understand taxes? Do they understand the fact that if you're in Minnesota, you pretty much lose about 50%, right? I mean, because you've got the state tax, you put that on with the federal tax, and you're making $100,000. You're really making 50, but you're going to spend $100,000.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
That's a problem.
Yeah, but that's been, jumping, kind of coupling the NFL. It's been interesting to watch. You hear really sad stories in times from people that, hey, how is it possible that this guy made $60 million in his NFL career, and now you hear he's involved in some weird Medicaid scam or something like that? and there are sadly some former Vikings that we've heard kind of doing, fraudulent activities and such. And whether it's the NFL, I believe they bring rookies in. They have these various seminars effectively it's like, well, here's a checking account. Here's how you balance it.
I've done some of those, matter of fact.
What's that like?
I spoke to the Giants a couple of years ago. This is going back probably 10 years ago. And I just told them, about financial literacy. And I've talked to various teams in the NFL about this, or groups on the team. I did the running backs because I'm really good friends with Kennedy Palomalo. And, so I spoke to the running backs about, hey, this is really how it all works, because how does Warren Sapp make $100 million and he's broke, right? I mean, that one's a Tampa Bay one back in my old world. But
sadly, some of that has been publicized.
Right.
So I guess it's not all mysterious, sadly, with Warren, HOF as he is.
Right. But there's a lot of guys out there that, the money that they've made is gone. And, I go through a very quick sort of analysis of where it goes and how fast it goes. I mean, the easy part is what I just mentioned. So basically, if you're not in Florida or some of the other no-tax states, you're going to give up about 50% of whatever you're making.
Right.
Very close to it, so it makes it more difficult. So the money that you're making, you're still going to spend it, right? Because you're in the NFL. So you've got to have a big, sweet as all get out truck. You also have to have some sort of a speedster sort of a car. You also have to have all your clothes made for you. You don't want to just go in the store and buy it because everybody's got that.
Exactly.
So by the time you go through all these things and these numbers, and let's be honest, you're probably, unfortunately, because it's the NFL, you're going to get divorced if you're married, or you're going to get married and have some kids, and that's going to cost you money. All those things kind of come into play. And, I can make fun with it a little bit, along the way, and the guys do laugh and everything. But the reality is, when it's said and done, how much is left?
Yeah.
And that's where it's a problem, because you've got to buy mom a house, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do that. And I respect a lot of the spending that goes on, but it unfortunately turns into something far bigger than people ever really expect. And I think that they just don't. They don't keep track of all that money as it's going out, and if you don't get that next contract, that's a problem. That's a real problem.
And the next year is never promised,
right?
As we know, with the NFL in particular, but bringing it back to the Gophers and college athletics in general, some would argue that's a reason why that there should not be a cap. There's a reason why they will chase every school. Because I kind of romanticize the idea of putting on the helmet or the jersey. Now, I can say this from the comfy confines of these studios here. I never put on the helmet or the jersey for a high-end D1 institution. Mm-hmm. But as a rube, as a fan, the idea that this guy chose this university, he's going to stay here. He lives out those 4 years, makes those memories. We root for him on Saturdays and then hopefully see him on Sundays. The argument for it would be, because that money is fleeting down the road. So the ability for whatever it is, as a 19-year-old kid to put a couple of coins in, maybe he does buy the vehicle and doesn't realize that
he does.
Maybe insurance and maintenance, and maybe 5 years from now it's on blocks, sadly. But one way or another, at least giving them that opportunity, there's a benefit to that too.
Oh, there's no doubt about that, and I'm not against it. Like I said, to start off, I'm whatever amount of money they want to give. I mean, Coy Parrish is a great example. he could have gone to Ohio State originally. He came to Minnesota anyway. He's, from that little podunk town here in Minnesota, right?
Esco's finest.
Right, Esco's best. And he's a great kid, great athlete. He's probably one of the best athletes I've seen at the University of Minnesota ever. And I mean that when I say ever. I've been around for a long time and been around a lot of guys who are very athletic, but he's really special. But I knew that at some point he's just going to have, the taste is out there. And Oregon has a pretty much unlimited amount of money. Phil Knight does a pretty good job of making sure that gets done. Yeah. But, I was happy that we had him as long as we did, because I thought we might lose him, and Ohio State tried to get him last year. They didn't get him again. And then this year, of course, we lose him to Oregon. So I don't mind them chasing a little bit. I just think there's got to be some loyalty at some point in time, right? I mean, there's something that I think has to happen, and it's okay if you leave once, but I mean, how many guys have you and I both read about over the years who
3-4 schools?
I start at Auburn, I go to Clemson, then I go over to Texas, and I finish at Texas A&M. It's like, really?
Yeah.
First of all, you're not getting that degree because of that. And you made a lot of money, but you probably spent a lot of that money. So you're back into that same spot that you probably would have been in anyway.
Well, first of all, he's 27, so he probably should have an MBA. And secondly, all the freshmen, he's buying them beer. So at least
isn't that the truth, right?
There are some good aspects to that. But as part of that, I mentioned this to you off air. Michael Lombardi has been a terrific guest with PA over the years. And former executive with the Patriots. He's in personnel. They're winning Super Bowls with Tom and Bill. And Bill goes to North Carolina, to the Tar Heels. And in comes Michael Lombardi as a general manager. Mm-hmm. And that kind of hit me as I tried to get him on as a guest right around Super Bowl time. We love to do Super Bowl stories. And Lombardi's got several of them working with Belichick. And he's like, I'm sorry, Nords. Love joining you guys. Can't do it because I'm fully locked in. I'm not doing media right now because I'm with the Tar Heels, and that's all good. Yeah. But I'm just thinking about it. Just the GM. Mm-hmm. Just again, you nailed it. It's professional football, man, and they're hiring these positions and paying these guys a fair dollar to really manage these dollars and cents now at a level we've never seen before. And then the Band-Aid's been ripped off, the floodgates have been open, man. I mean, it's a cool opportunity for somebody that wants to be a GM. It just kind of hit me around Super Bowl time, like, this ain't the same anymore, no doubt.
Well, and the SEC actually, I don't know if you saw this today, but the SEC came out and said, hey, you know what? We're trying to figure out how we can get this where you can't transfer every single year. Yeah. And it's interesting that they're the group that actually starting it off. I actually would have guessed it might be the Big Ten or somebody like that. But yeah, the SEC. And, Lombardi's an amazing guy. I know him well. And by the way, he was the very first hire at North Carolina by Belichick. First hire. Not the OC, not the DC, none of that. It was Lombardi.
I didn't know that.
He was the first guy he grabbed.
Oh, wow.
Just shows you how important he thinks that really is to have that. And it is, because they really do control the personnel now, right? I mean, that's who's going to run that whole thing. So it's an interesting and you know what? College sports, especially football, I think the general manager is really a key element to this whole thing. And, I've had conversations myself with different universities about this role. Some of them are interesting, some of them not. But it's always flattering to be asked some questions about that whole thing.
No, certainly. Let's do this actually, because we kind of went off on the college side of things. I do want your insight in terms of just how you see things with the Purple moving forward. So we're going to pause. And then we're going to go long form, Steve's marathon segment style on the Minnesota Vikings here. Post-combine, some financial levers that have been pulled that still need to be pulled. 8 or 9 selections in the upcoming draft. Lots of work for Mr. Brzezinski and his bunch. Pete Najarian, you heard his voice. He's in studio. And we're going to transition to the Purple here around the corner. Nordo in for PA, 9 to noon.
This one get away, the Northwest Sports Show, March 5th through the 8th, Minneapolis Convention Center. See the newest fishing and outdoor gear, boats, RVs, travel, and power sports. And you can join the fans, Nordo, who you're listening to right now, Friday the 6th from 4 to 6 p.m. for a Friday night fish fry. Details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Personal foul. Clipping.
seat for a second.
Pete Najarian in studio. Will be a Steve's Appliances marathon a segment. Thank you to Steve's Appliances, stevesappliances.com. And I got my washer and dryer. I got my fridge, my range, my dishwasher from them. 2025 was a big year for the Nordquist household as it pertained to appliances. Pete Najarian remaining in studio. To the Minnesota Vikings. You want to talk about fridges or you want to talk about football?
Football, man.
Same here.
Let's do it. I love it.
Same.
I've never been tired of it. I swear to you. You know, I did it for a long time playing wise, and then I actually was coaching back in the original XFL. So I would work on the trading floors in Chicago, and the owner when he called me up, he goes, "Hey, can you come coach with our guys down there?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm a full day trader, man. I know." He goes, "Could you make it on Fridays or Saturdays?" I go, "Sure, I can make that." He goes, "Done." So I coached linebackers for the Chicago team.
We'll change practices until after the bell closes.
That was pretty much it. You're exactly
Can you do
right.
evenings?
Yeah. It was really fun. And then for a while I did. Can I say a 4-letter ESPN? Can I say that?
Yeah, that's
that
fine.
okay?
We're not offended by it.
I did a cool show on there. It was sort of like the Red Zone, except for it was called Goal Line. It was its own channel back in the day. I did that for like 2-3 years. Literally, you could jump to almost, whatever the number is of games going on in one day and on TV, and it's probably close to 80 total. Right. We could pick every single one of those. But if we owned it, if ESPN owned it, we could jump immediately. Otherwise, it was like a 5-second delay.
Sure.
Or whatever it was.
No,
so
I get you.
It was great, man. It was fun. It was the hardest work I ever did because I'd work in the financial world by day, and then on Saturdays I'd go up there and it was noon to midnight, no commercials.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Me and a play-by-play guy.
Well, first of all, that's a dream for someone that has that passion.
I loved it.
But on the Rube side of things, I mean, that's the weeping and gnashing of teeth now, where with Red Zone and everything. Hold on here. Why are we minimizing screens and now we got a State Farm ad or something like that? In all respect to State Farm. State Farm wants customers and clients and all that.
Sure.
But I was sold that Red Zone was a commercial-free operation.
And it wasn't.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now the guy's wearing a GMC hat? What is going on here?
It was great.
But, okay, so now I'm kicking the Vikings can down the road just a bit farther because you mentioned XFL. Mm-hmm. What was it, even at a base level, just coaching at that time and being connected to it, what was what were the conversations about the future of a non-NFL league? Because I think in the business of the NFL, the brilliance of the NFL is that they don't have to have a development league. That's what these colleges are for.
Right?
So they don't have to put that additional investment in there. But the idea, whether it was the XFL, it's the UFL, there are probably somebody up there working with the the Montreal Alouettes that has dreams of maybe playing in the big league just south of the border. But what were the conversations like in terms of the XFL as a league that could at least coexist, entertain fans, and provide an outlet for athletes that were not able to be behind the shield?
It was great. It was absolutely great. And I think a lot of what we have seen over the years, I actually played in something, I don't know if you know this about me, but I played in the World League of American Football.
What?
Which was the that's a good one. You're right. You're right to say that, actually. No, but it was great. I played in Sacramento. I was the third pick in the draft, and I went to Sacramento. I loved it. Played 2 years there. Had a couple injuries, but we won the World Bowl at the end. But it was the opportunity for the NFL to watch how things went because we had teams that were in Frankfurt and London. And
was this the same league like the Rhine Fire and some of these other? That's
another one. But that just shows you how many leagues that have tried to do this type of thing because
I do remember that in the 90s, though.
Yeah, this was 91, 92. I had just gotten an opportunity to be with the Raiders, but then got cut and blah, blah, blah. And the next thing you know, I'm in the World League of American Football. But it was really cool. Montreal was one of the cities. There was a team in Ohio. There was a team in Birmingham, a team in Texas, San Antonio, and all the rest of it. And we were California. I think it was 10 teams total. And I think there were 3 over in Europe. But it was great. And then eventually the NFL actually bought it. because they thought, wow, this is pretty cool. And, it was NFL Europe is what they called it. Yeah, so they turned into NFL Europe. But,
so again, just showing, again, 91, 92.
Yep.
I was 6 and 7.
Oh, God.
So NFL Europe
Man, you're making me feel old.
Is what I remember. No, but to that end, though, it was cool to watch those games. And even in the 90s, specifically with NFL Europe, I thought it was cool. I had no maturity or analytical bent to really understand kind of the business of that.
Right.
Still, by the way, like Sacramento, no offense to Sacramento as a city.
But they get tested all the time. That's one of those cities where they want to make it work.
Okay.
I mean, like right now, where are the Oakland A's? Well, they're in Sacramento.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that city seems to be able to attract and get that. And by the way, we did sell out every game. Not huge stadiums. It was actually Hughes Stadium. I think it was like 25,000, 30,000, something like that. But we'd sell them out.
Oh, that's super cool.
It was great. And I'll give you this. After we did win the World Bowl my second year, I think we ended up with 10 guys in the NFL. And 2 of them were all pro the first year they got to the NFL.
For real.
So, as a matter of fact, a kid that I helped out become a linebacker, he was a running back from Missouri. And the Raiders picked him up, and then they gave him to us because there was a thing there where you'd have an exchange of certain players that you could have. And so the Raiders gave us this guy, Mike Jones. Mike Jones is the guy, if you remember, going way back when he, for St. Louis, he made
He's that guy.
the game-changing tackle at the 1 yard line to keep the guy from it. That was Mike Jones. And I was his coach. The coaches said, hey, Pete, you got to teach this guy how to be a linebacker. And I'm like, great. So I'm teaching another guy to take my spot. That's fantastic. But I'm a team player, so I helped him out.
Well, years later, did you get to at least see the ring?
Oh, well, see it, yes. He's the greatest guy. Oh, we're friends to this day. We had a bunch of those guys. We had another guy who was an all-pro defensive end up at the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, we had a quarterback who actually stepped right in at Atlanta and was the starting quarterback after being our quarterback for the year. So there was talented players in that league. There really were. I mean, that World League was it was not, it was only 10 teams, so it was a great opportunity for a lot of guys to get in. You know who my nose guard was in that? You might remember this name, Bill Goldberg. Remember the pro wrestler?
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact.
He was my nose guard.
No way.
Yeah.
Nice guy off the field and out of the ring.
Yeah, and he might have touched a chemical or two in his lifetime, by the way.
Yeah, it's possible.
He got pretty thick and big, man.
Yeah, just something changed. Yeah. Don't know what it was.
That was great.
Weird growth spurt at 26 years old. Yes, that's very, very odd, but it happens. Happens. What does intrigue you with the Vikings in terms of this quagmire they're in and this progression forward now post combine, free agency in the draft?
Sure. I think that if I were a part of the Vikings, I would be very aggressively looking at specific positions because I do think that there's weaknesses in a lot of different pieces for the Vikings right now, and they've got to figure that out from that standpoint. And it's difficult to draft certain positions, in my opinion. How many years have we heard about the Vikings going after a cornerback in the draft who is a bust? Mm-hmm. I would go for the free agent side. I'm going to go for a guy who actually can play. We've already seen him play in the NFL, and we already understand, this is the kind of player he is. So from that perspective, I like that. But I'll tell you what, I was watching the Combine like I do every year, and I must have 40 books from Mel Kiper, for God's sakes, that, over the years until it became so as big as it is. But I'll tell you what, this Caleb Banks is the guy. If I was the Vikings, I know it's not a sexy first-round pick, number 18, but this kid, Caleb Banks, at Florida is exactly what the Vikings need, because the problem with the Vikings, in my opinion, from a defensive standpoint, is they're too small on the inside. The two linebackers are very small, relatively speaking. 225 pounds is pretty small these days, as a linebacker. But they do it because they're faster, right? I mean, so that's part of the rationale behind it. But it just doesn't work because if you can't stop the run, you've got a real problem on defense. And I think when you've got a guy who's 6'7" and 335 pounds that can move the way this kid can move, I would look at the defensive lineman or offensive lineman, because we need both. But I think defensive linemen can step in and play.
Right.
Usually offensive linemen take a little while to get into things. I mean, think about the left tackle for the New England Patriots who was getting
Will Campbell.
Yep. And I love the kid. And tell me this one, Nordo. Why didn't somebody, either the offensive coordinator or Vrabel, at some point say, hey, look, let's help the kid out. Why not chip that defensive end just a little bit so that, get a fullback over there, maybe put another lineman or a tight end over there, but help the kid out. They never did it. They just let him get beat for the entire game. And I just sat there watching going, I like you, Vrabes, but you're not watching the same game, man.
Well, I would assume in Vrabel's case, the same way that Kevin O'Connell, he's going to put a ton of faith in Brian Flores. And so whether it's Caleb Banks and I've looked at D-tackle and safety. Those are two things that I think about right out of the gates, depth defensively. But the faith that Vrabel would have in a Josh McDaniels, who's been there, he's done that. And they just had no answer there,
right?
And they didn't, by all accounts, did not appear to make an adjustment. So
never did.
You can't have Travion Henderson on the field because he's awful in pass protection. You mentioned Will Campbell. Oh wait, I think it's Jared Wilson. He's a rookie, right next at left guard. Then they got Garrett Bradbury, who's undersized and had his own physical struggles.
Right.
They could have pput 3 tight ends on Will Campbell's side, and I don't know if they were going to stop the Seahawks.
One though, man. Just give them one.
I'm totally with you on that. And Caleb Banks, what a name, by the way. He's a terrific player.
And get a mountain like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think who cares? How many times do you need your guy who's the inside guy on top of the center and the guards and all the rest of it? How often do you really care if they get towards the quarterback? It really isn't that big of a deal. They take up 2 or 3 guys alone.
Yeah.
So if we get him and we get somebody else with a little bit more size, I think we would have a much better defense than we were. And and I'm not overly critical about the defensive coordinator. You just mentioned his name, but the one issue I had was when we went through that streak where we went 1-6 in the middle of the year or whatever, we couldn't stop anybody.
Right.
And nobody seemed to want to talk about the fact that we're giving up yards on the run that were just absolutely ridiculous. And I think part of it is we're pretty small at linebacker. We're pretty small at defensive line. So why didn't we adjust in some way? Yeah. And I think that was part of the problem is we weren't big enough there and strong enough to be able to slow down somebody who, and by the way, once you finally do cheat up a safety, then they just throw the ball on you. So that's a problem. That's the problem with not being able to stop the run. Well, and that's what we struggled with.
It's kind of an interesting thing. So the last 2 years, and I don't have this in front of me, but you had the 5th best scoring defense in the NFL, I think, in 2024. And then it was similar, let's call it 5, 6, or 7, somewhere this last season. But if you look at the 2 years, you saw a significant commitment against the run in 2024. So that's Jonathan Bullard. That is Harrison Phillips is still there. It was difficult to run on Flores' bunch.
Right.
But you could get around the gym through the air. Well, now fast forward a year later, you see these additions of Hargrave and Jonathan Allen. In the end, just looking at box scores and stats, they're the 2nd best pass defense in the NFL. They are atrocious against the freaking run. They can't stop it.
You're the only other guy saying it, man. I'm telling you. You are the only. I don't hear anybody talking about that. And I'll give you a real quick. Can I give you a real quick numbers?
Sure.
So, let's see. We gave up 207 yards rushing against the Chargers. We gave up another 150 to Baltimore, 140 to Chicago, 146 to the Packers, and 125 to Seattle. We couldn't stop anybody because once you can run the ball, you can throw the ball. It's just that's just part of it because you finally start, all right, enough of this. We're going to try to stop it. And then they start throwing the ball on you. Now what do you do?
That bloodbath, that Thursday night game at the Chargers. I mean, Kamani Vidal. No one had even known. That was like his breakout game. He's got his whole his grandma's in the stands, the whole thing. Everyone's excited. Carson Wentz's shoulder looks like it's going to fall off. I mean, but sometimes once you start throwing or running the ball like that, you don't have to throw the ball, and you find your way into victory lane. Now, the biggest conundrum for this team moving forward, and you followed it, is post Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah.
Yep.
With the head coach into year 5, been to the playoffs twice, 0-2 in the playoffs, sadly. This quarterback situation, that has been kind of the A topic. So guys like you and I, we're sitting around, we're watching the combine, and then you'll catch these little ticker bits. Ooh, Kyler Murray's probably going to be released if they can't trade him.
Right.
Ooh, Geno Smith says he still's got it. Ooh, Derek Carr might come out of retirement if he finds a team he thinks he can win a Super Bowl with. So you've probably seen all of these bits. There's a broad spectrum in terms of what they can do. But that is the conundrum and the A topic of the team. So just kind of starting with J.J. McCarthy, level of interest in giving him some grace and some leeway and the trust in the coach to develop him. Where's your head at with JJ and this team?
Everybody has jumped all over JJ, right?
Yeah.
He's not what we thought. We can't do this. We can't do that. I would say a little bit differently. I would say this. How about we get an offensive line? And how about we don't go into free agency and sign 2 offensive linemen that are on IR when we signed them? I mean, honestly, how difficult is that to figure out? It's one thing to be a college kid who gets an injury.
Right.
And you know what? Caleb Banks is one of those guys. He had an injury to his foot. Well, his foot don't look too bad right now because that big guy was running around and doing everything. So I'm not worried about him. But the offensive line's got to be able to stop somebody. We gave up 60 sacks. Now, some people will say to me, well, Pete, but the quarterbacks are holding the ball too long. And I'm like, no, they weren't. By the time JJ would get back on his 5th step, dropping 5 steps back, he's getting hit. He's getting hit by the time he's planting his back foot. And and I'm not some guy who wants to be apologetic. Oh yeah, he's not this great. He's not whatever. I just watched him get hit day after day, night after night, all these things. And he's a winner. Yeah, I know. I hear everybody say, well, but he throws to the tight end. So what? Whoever he was throwing to, he did pretty good when he was at Michigan. He did the same thing in high school. He grew up right by me when he was still in Chicago before he went down to Florida.
Real?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the kid's a winner. He's got a really nice arm, but give him a little bit of time. I mean, and if you think I'm wrong, well, why is it that Carson Wentz, like you just said, was walking around without a right arm? I mean, he was getting hit. So we basically put him out there to just get slammed as much as he could possibly take until he couldn't take it anymore. And then we finally put JJ in. Well, then JJ's starting to get hurt, right? So I tell you what, if we decide to get a guy, and we better have somebody like Kyler Murray who can run. Because he's going to be on the run unless they do some improving of that offensive line. And it's not the biggest fix in the world, but it's something where you could do it through the draft, I think, because there's a lot of really good offensive linemen this year. And from a free agency standpoint, if you're afraid of the young guys, okay, let's go into free agency. We did it last year, but we didn't really do it the right way.
Yeah, I think, in the end for me, I think it's going to be Ryan Kelly's not the answer.
Right.
And terrific career that he's had, the head injuries specifically, the concussions, this is just it's unsustainable.
Yeah.
This is a thing, by the way, that they knew when they signed him.
Yeah.
But there was an injury history associated with him, as good as Ryan Kelly's been, so they knew it. But that's kind of the spot, it feels like. You want the evolution of Donovan Jackson. This is a fresh year for Christian Darrisaw. You think we used to have a tally. It was almost up here on this beautiful natural brick surround that we have, Pete.
It does look good.
We at one point had to add a whiteboard up there to note how many O-line combinations that the Vikings were using throughout the season. So it was nutty. But to that end, what I'm curious about, put your, maybe coach, your own GM hat on, is the reason I talked about KO, 5th year, is do you believe that there is pressure that is added to this conversation where I want J.J. McCarthy to get a fair shake and a fair run? And I'm talking for myself too, personally. That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's best case scenario, is that this spring, this summer, that there is a jump and an evolution. And if KO rolls into 2026 and he says, I've seen what I need to see, he won whatever competition he creates via free agency, et cetera, and JJ's the guy, I'm going to trust in the coach that he's making the right decision.
Sure.
But is there pressure associated with the idea I'm into year 5 and there is so much unknown about JJ? So therefore, I can't roll in just assuming that he is grown, which could then potentially say, I'm bringing in a guy that's going to start, and JJ's going to ride the pine. And then I got this weird 5th year option thing to think about a year from now with very, very little equity to work off of. Like, how much do you think that any potential pressure to win now plays into this quarterback conversation?
Well, there's got to be some pressure, and I say there's got to be some, because how about the fact that we got rid of, for the guy who's the quarterback whisperer, which I hear all the time, right?
Yeah.
Daniel Jones sure looked good down in Indy, right?
He did, yes.
And then the little fella who had decided to go out to Seattle looked like he was pretty daggone good quarterback as well, right?
Yeah,
so
tough subject.
If you're the whisperer, how do we miss that? How do we not say, wow, this guy has made another step higher and another step higher, and he's doing the right thing? And but he has a different offensive line than what we were putting out there as well.
Right.
And that's another reason why I say, it was probably tough for the whisperer. I give him a hard time a little bit, but.
By the way, even Darnold was sacked 50-some times in 2024.
Yeah.
So he, maybe there's a veteran element to it. I just wanted to note that the offensive line, if we really dig into it, has been a talker for longer
for a
than
couple
just
years.
this last year. Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting beat left and right, unfortunately.
No, I was 6 with my dad watching you in the World Football League the last time they had a. No, it hasn't been that long. Hasn't been that long.
But it's been a while.
Sacramento.
Gosh, it was fun football, man. Oh, that was the greatest. Awesome. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, no, you're right. There's a lot of different elements that come into this whole thing, whether it's the offensive line or is it sometimes the quarterback. And
sure.
I'll tell you what, I've seen enough. I went to some practices this past year and watched him throw the ball around a little bit. And JJ threw the ball around. It looked pretty daggone good to me.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there was anything wrong with him. I do think that offensive line, unfortunately, is where you got to point the finger. And what are we going to do to fix it? Because it doesn't matter who the quarterback is if you're getting hit day after day after day. And whether, and Sam Darnold's a tough kid. I mean, he really is a tough kid. I was always harsh about, USC quarterbacks, but he actually has turned into a pretty damn good quarterback, right? So
yes.
And there aren't very many of them that are very good. So I give him a lot of credit for what he's done.
I'm trying to think now, USC QBs that have really turned out.
Very few. There's only really one that everybody hangs their hat on, and it's the guy who went to Cincinnati and they went to the Super Bowl and all that kind of stuff. All of a sudden I'm dropping it in my head, but if you look around
now it's Darnold though.
Yeah, it's Darnold.
Now it's Darnold.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And he's doing well. What a year he had. It was unbelievable.
Let me ask you this. A couple more for you, and I just can't thank you enough for your time this morning.
Fun.
The idea of molding the scheme to the player or molding the player to the scheme, just in terms of what we see out of this offense. And I'll give you an example. So large part of the conversation last spring, a year ago, wasn't just, man, if Javon Hargrave stays healthy, man, if Ryan Kelly stays healthy, et cetera. It wasn't just that. It was, this Jordan Mason cat. I kind of like what I saw. Yeah, he had 100 and a touchdown against us. I think it was week 2, 2024. And he's kind of that cool yang to the yin of an Aaron Jones.
Yep.
And so is this into the fourth year, is this the year that KO absolutely commits to running the ball? And this is a team, of course, with Justin Jefferson on it, I want to get that guy in space, right? And that's 180 targets if I can get it to him in a season. And then we just didn't see that.
Right.
We didn't see that and haven't seen it consistently. Is part of that process or that conversation related to the offensive line as well? Is that something legitimately on a to-do list for a coach where whether it's a Geno Smith, oh my goodness, or a Derek Carr, or oh my goodness, or a Kirko, oh my goodness, or it's J.J. McCarthy, regardless of who it is that kind of on a to-do list for a coach? Like one way or another, I do need to be able to make this a thing that defenses respect on a weekly basis.
You have to be able to run the football. You just do. And I think that's something that is he willing to go that far to actually put it more into a running game? I'll tell you what, it would open up for JJ.
Not to clomp on it, Carson Palmer. How did we?
Carson Palmer. That's it.
Well, hey, don't apologize. You were looking for a lifeline, and I got nothing. I was putting my mute button, trying to sip some water.
But I'll tell you, I think that JJ would do great in that kind of an offense, and I'm talking about JJ the receiver. I think that he needs us to be able to run the football to open it up for him and get those guys off of him, because they are going to start peeking in, whether it's a cornerback or a safety or whoever it is, and they see this guy starting to run downfield.
They already cover him more differently than probably any other receiver, save a Jamar Chase in the NFL.
Yep. for all the right reasons. He's as good as advertised, and he does a fantastic job, but it sure makes it tougher on him if the quarterback doesn't have any time back there to throw the ball, because all we do is try to throw the ball and we don't commit anything to a running game. Right. So if we can commit to that running game, but it also comes right back to the offensive line again, right? Did our offensive line blow open holes really very often? Really not all that often. I mean, Aaron Jones does a great job, and I know that now we're going to have to get rid of him and see, obviously we got to clean it up. When we got, that's the other amazing thing. How are we 40 million or 45 million over the cap? Yeah. With what we've got. No, it just doesn't make any sense at all. Nuts. So they're going to have to clear it out and give us an opportunity now, but that does hurt on who are we going to be able to sign, right? I mean, because those numbers are going to be big. Offensive linemen get paid pretty damn good right now.
They do.
And there was a kid that who plays for the Denver Broncos right now who I helped coach him in high school when I was in New Canaan, Connecticut. And I watched this kid and I'm like, wow, this guy's going to be in the NFL. And lo and behold, he just signed a contract last year. I think is like 4 for $180 million or something like that. Defensive tackle. Really? The Denver Broncos. Yeah. Wow. I mean, just special kid, really a really nice kid. Went to Boston College, did great. And, everybody else said, I don't think this kid's going to make it in the NFL. And I'm like, I don't know. This guy's got something special going on here. And, so
we need to find some more of those.
But they get paid money is my point. Whether it's offensive line or defensive line, they're making the same kind of money these days as some of the other positions, that are very meaningful. So it's amazing.
Last one for you here. And Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah relieved of his general managerial duties. Mm-hmm. And Rob Brzezinski's been with the team for a long time. And just, your opinion on the idea. So some have said kind of, well, Kwesi's out. Mm-hmm. But they did all this time talking. They spent all this time talking about collaboration, and you just picture this room, and everyone gets. They hold like an egg timer or something like that, and everyone gets 3 minutes to talk, and then Kwesi holds the gavel. Everyone else is still there. Mm-hmm. So all the scouts and Mr. Brzezinski, assistant GM, personnel guy, everybody else is there. That's static, and then Kwesi is really the only variable that has changed. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the analytics lean, how you position a draft board, I still feel like this is potentially a significant change philosophically on how they can handle things. You can speak about collaboration. Yeah. My kids get collaboration in the house. Guess what? Their opinions only matter for so long. And then it's over.
Right.
And I get the final say. Mm-hmm. So this does feel, regardless of scouting department, personnel guys, it's simply maybe from a philosophical level that this is a significant change, that we could still look forward to seeing something different from the draft board and maybe what we see at the end of April. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be interesting. Brzezinski's an amazing guy because he's been with the Vikings for how many years, right? Yeah. And he at one point in time was the GM. He played that role along with being the financial guy and all the rest of it. Then we had Spielman, and then we've gone this other direction. But can he handle it? I think he can. Does he want to? He probably does. Whether people say he doesn't or not, I don't necessarily agree. I think he kind of likes the idea of it. Okay. And I have heard other people try to convince me the other side, but we'll find out in a few. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we'll find out. But
see, I just think I can't speak for him. I think he likes chilling in the background, being the cap guy that everyone loves.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, that's a great spot to have. And as long as he's executing on that, it's great.
But now he's getting a high-end taste of what the path forward could be and what the future looks like for Mr. Rob Brzezinski. That's cool.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this thing unfolds. I think there's a lot of positions in there, though, that I don't know if they need fresh eyes or what they need, but they need something because it clearly hasn't been working. I mean, if you go back over the last 2-3 years or whatever of this regime with Kwesi.
I don't want to look at the drafts. Don't ask me to do that, Pete.
Well, the drafts have been terrible, but free agency, we've hit on some. Yeah. Let's be honest. I mean, Blake Cashman, I love that kid. He's a great kid. I
think Renard and Van Ginkel didn't really see how that would work, and it really worked.
And great, I think. But there's a lot of misses along the way too. So, and those are free agent misses. I mean, it's one thing to miss on a draft pick just because that can happen.
Sure.
But when you're doing it with the free agents, that's a little bit of a different story because you've seen what they are and you know what they are, and you get them. And they are who they are, right? And it's not that good sometimes. So I think it's something that they're going to have to really polish that up and make sure that gets done better, because it has not worked in the last 3 or 4 years.
Oh, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out, man.
It's all fun, man. It's great to be with you, Nordo.
No, thank you to Pete Najarian at Pete Najarian via X. Thank you, Howard Bornstein, and everyone. I just love mentioning Howard's name.
He deserves it. He deserves it.
Oh, yeah, I know I'm going to get 6 phone calls about it. No, good to see you, brother. Have an awesome day. We'll catch up if it's cool, though. Maybe we'll catch up closer to the draft again. Because
I'd love to.
I'd love to have more conversations with you. That's Pete Najarian. We're going to pause, a little news around the corner, and then we'll check in with Alec Lewis of The Athletic in the 11 a.m. hour. It's Nordo in for PA on the Fan. What up, News to Nord, brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Real quick, and then we will transition to Alec Lewis to kick off the 11 o'clock hour. And CanterburyPark.com, feeling the felt all year long, but some news nuggets from Brett.
Number 1.
What was your favorite David Montgomery in Detroit moment?
Yeah.
He is on the way out. He's on the way to Houston. So the Texans get Montgomery. The Lions get a 4th-round pick, offensive lineman Juice Scruggs, great name, and a 7th-round pick in 2027. That's all it took to get David Montgomery. So Knuckles leaves Sonic and is out of Detroit. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, hit me with that trade equity again, because I had just seen some Adam Schefter. There were a few, and thank you, by the way. I'm not trying to diminish this when I say it this way, but 64686 Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. A couple people sent in a link to an Adam Schefter post about it on ESPN. I saw they just flipped him for a 5th-round pick. That's what I'd seen.
Yeah. So
then I saw several people like, Montgomery was trying. Like, well, I'm not stopping everything with a breaking news sounder, but in all seriousness, I appreciate it. I thought it was just a 5th-round pick.
So they're saying it was a 5th-round, quality, I guess. So Schefter had the updated compensation. He tweeted it out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Schefter was wrong out of the gates, he said.
Or maybe they were just cloudy about it. I don't know. But
wow.
So the Lions get a 4th-round pick, Juice Scruggs, and a 7th-round pick in 2027.
Which is a sweet name.
It's so good.
I don't know what Montgomery was making. I don't know if they're getting out while the getting is probably still good. The fact is, I look at this almost more from the Texans side of things, whether it's, they've tried Nick Chubb, they tried Damian Pierce, they have Woody Marks,
guy.
and now Montgomery. Just like how brutally the Texans have continued to fail at every turn. Now, I don't believe they've failed with Woody Marks, but in terms of creating a running back stable that they can win a ton of games with, albeit they were a playoff team, we're on the outside looking in, so go Texans, I guess. But to that end, if you're watching them, you know that they have struggled at that spot. So maybe Montgomery provides that same type of change of pace, goal line, and short yardage related role that he used to offer to Jahmyr Gibbs. And so it's not world changing and shocking to me. Just kind of feels like they're very, very confident that here in Detroit, over in Detroit, that they're ready to make him the feature creature, and that he's going to do absolutely everything for that team, which he showed out in a massive way, albeit a disappointing season for the Lions. He showed out. So best of luck to David Montgomery. And I'm about to learn more about Juice Scruggs, offensive lineman.
Yes.
Say. Well, what's interesting about that too, and best of luck to Juice in Motown. And I know we gave up on Ed Ingram, and you see a cool highlight on X, and suddenly you think Ed Ingram in Houston is the next Marshall Yanda. Arianti Ursary, we want to root for the best. Gophers connection, Sky Uma down in Houston. Their offensive line is not very good. And so if they were willing to flip Juice Scruggs for this running back transaction, I don't see him jumping in for Christian Mahogany or Tate Ratledge. I guess, is he a tackle or a guard? Do you know?
So, quick search says I see one thing that says he's a center and one thing says he's a guard. So probably one of the two.
Well, center guard flexibility. Yeah. Teams, I wouldn't mind that. Blake Brandel, though, played every freaking position on the field, it felt like, for the Vikings this year. You need that. And the Lions, part of the quick change for them has truly been just precipitous downfall of quality at the O-line spot. So maybe the Lions are just like the purple in the draft, talking with Pete, like whether it's the center spot, Graham Glasgow just wasn't good enough last year for them. Maybe the Kitties are going to try and snipe us on a center in April's draft. We'll see. But welcome Juice to the Kitties Covenant, and best of luck to Mr. Montgomery to work with Woody Marks down in Houston. That's cool. Anything else?
Real name Frederick Henry Scruggs, nicknamed Juice. I like Juice a lot better. I think that's a good move for him.
Yeah, I don't know.
Fred Scruggs. That's not
Freddie. What about Freddie?
Freddie Scruggs. That's kind of good too, actually.
Yeah,
I don't mind that.
He's like Freddy Krueger in the trenches.
Brilliant. Giving the D-line nightmares.
See?
There you go.
Yes, I'm pro. So as long as he is in Detroit, I will not call him Juice. And what a weird thing to where this would happen, where I actually met Juice Scruggs, and he's like, I prefer Juice. Then I would call him Juice.
Probably the case.
So but I don't foresee a personal interaction ever taking place. So best of luck to Freddie. The nightmare that he can be on the interior. Moving man for Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't know. Juice is cool, but Freddie. I'm pro Freddie. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Sports Central, Snooze and Nord.
Yeah.
Moore's Bits and Bets.
Yeah, and of course, Wild loss 3-1 to St. Louis. We did that in the weekend wrap. Roman Schmidt, kind of a blue liner they added. Boris Kachuk heads to Philly. Tampa in town tomorrow night. Looking forward to that. A little later puck drop. I think it's just some primetime hockey taking place on a Tuesday. Wolves, it's 3 in a row. It's like 6 of their last 7. They beat the Nugs yesterday, rising to the occasion against a contender. We dig that. And PA, he was at the game yesterday, Mile High. So when he returns tomorrow, we'll chat. We'll probably chat about that, and maybe even have the head coach on. So we'll find out about that. But next, Alec Lewis, one of our favorites. He was in Indianapolis for the better part of a week with the NFL Scouting Combine, steamrolling, writing a ton of content. He's got this QB piece that he just dropped this morning that I want to dig into with him. That's Alec Lewis of The Athletic. He joins me next. Final hour ahead, 9 to noon.